Hi everyone, my name is Matt Martin, and today I'll be talking to you about Dr. James Naismith and the invention of the game of basketball. Are there any Spurs fans out there today? Any Spurs fans? Everybody recognize this logo? How about basketball players? Are there any basketball players out there? I'm actually a basketball player by trade. I grew up playing basketball, played in middle school, played in high school, and so still try to play today, even with a wife and son. So it's something that's really important to me. Basketball, it's a great activity for us to play outside. It's a good way for us to exercise and develop team building skills. It's also a good way for us to get our competitive juices flowing, and it's also a good way for us to connect with people because of basketball's international exposure. It allows us to speak a common language to people that maybe we wouldn't have been able to before. So today I'll be going over how and why the game was invented, and I'll also be going over the evolution of the game and also where we stand today. So first, we'll be talking about the origins of basketball. So Dr. James Naismith invented the game in 1892. According to SportsKnowHow.com, basketball is the only sport that was purposefully invented, the only modern sport that was purposefully invented as a sport, as a competitive activity. Dr. Naismith actually invented it for PE teachers that he was instructing up at the Springfield, Massachusetts YMCA, which is actually where the NBA Hall of Fame is located today. According to Britannica.com, actually, and I'm sure many of you are wondering why I'm holding the soccer ball right now, but actually, the first basketball was a soccer ball. And Dr. Naismith invented the game with elements of soccer, hockey, baseball, and football. And so, pretty much a compilation of all the sports that we play today. It originally had 13 rules, and the first game was played to a high score of 1-0, one on a half-court shot from 25 feet away. And so, for those of you who are familiar with the game today, you know that 25 feet is actually the length of the NBA three-point line, and now half-court is located at 45 feet, so fairly different from today's expectations. And so, when these teachers left for the winter break, they took Dr. Naismith's game with them, and they took it to their respective communities and taught kids and taught people, and that's how the game originally expanded. And through those first 20-30 years, we saw an explosion of people playing the game of basketball, and really some different things that ended up changing. We saw, originally from its roots to all those years later, changes in the amounts of players, changes in the rules, changes in the size of the court, changes in the rim, lots of changes like that. But the true core roots of the game that Dr. Naismith invented in 1892 were essentially the same. So next we'll discuss the advent of the pro game. Originally, Dr. Naismith invented basketball as a game that was not meant to be physical. Now, for those of you who've played basketball or have watched basketball, you know that today is quite the opposite, but it wasn't something they were used to in those times. And so the YMCA official said, you guys can't play here anymore, and that's sort of how the pro game got started. Originally, players played in these leagues they called barnstorming leagues because they would form teams and travel around to different cities, and they would play the local teams. Now, they didn't make a lot of money, so they had to play on several teams in order to make ends meet. But they did. This is sort of how the pro game got started. But then, according to NBA.com, on August 3rd, 1949, the NBA was formed as we know it today. Or not as we know it today, but the league that we know today was formed on that date. And it was formed from the combination of the NBL, the National Basketball League, and the BAA, the Basketball Association of America. The first championship was won by the Rochester Royals against the New York Knicks, 4-3, and that was the first NBA championship that had ever been won. So, just kind of in summary, basketball as we know it, has sort of evolved over time. So you can see in those first 60 years of existence, it started out as a non-physical game. The rules were very kind of wide open, and as time grew, we saw an evolution to a more physical game, a more rule-restricted game, and that sort of takes us to where we are today. Now, as we examine the game today, the league is in great shape. We just celebrated the 10th anniversary of the 2003 draft class, which is notable for many reasons, but primarily it's notable for this man right here. I know a lot of us who are Spurs fans aren't particularly happy with him, but he was the most famous player in that draft class, and his name is LeBron James. According to Nielsen rating service, ratings for the NBA are at an all-time high right now. They're the highest they've been since Jordan retired in 1998, so the league is in great shape from a marketing standpoint. As far as an international spread goes, last Thursday in the 2013 NBA draft, 12 international players were taken in the first round, according to NBADraftExpress.com. That is the most ever. And also, leading up to next year, there's even more anticipation for the draft class of 2014, which is headlined by Kansas freshman Andrew Wiggins, who is widely touted as the best prospect since LeBron James. So there's a lot of anticipation for that influx of talents that will be coming into the league next year. So what we've seen is, with this emergence of growing domestic talent and this influx of international talent, the game is at an all-time high and is only improving and is only expanding into what we know today. So originally, a game that was initially intended for PE teachers has evolved into an international phenomenon that now rivals soccer as the most internationally played game around. Players are faster and stronger, but the game is still stayed true to its roots over 100 years later from the game that was invented by Dr. Naismith in 1892. And here's a picture of Dr. Naismith. So now, I challenge all of you to go outside and play the game of basketball. Just play it for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, but get some exposure to it. And if you can't do that, then sit down next year around Halloween time for the San Antonio Spurs season opener and go support the Spurs as they try to win another championship. In closing, I just want to say that the game of basketball has been extremely good to me over my lifetime. The basketball court has always been a place that I could go whenever I had fears or anxiety or doubts. I've experienced more happiness and more disappointments on the basketball court than anywhere else in my life. And it's something that has continued to be a consistent thing for me as I've moved forward in my life. So all I can say is thank you to Dr. James Naismith for inventing the game of basketball that I love, and thank y'all for listening today.